All right, I'm rolling whenever you're ready.
Pigeon fellow. Okay. Hey everyone, Jamieleigh here from BirdTricks, and today I'm with Maddie Smith and her pigeon, Coo-per. And today's video is 12 things you didn't know about pigeons, but now you do. And before you hear them, you would have wished you would have already known. So number one, what does a pigeon cost?
So the price of pigeons can vary like extremely. You can find them on Craigslist for like $5, or you can rescue one off the street for free, minus vet bills. And it can go all the way up to the most expensive pigeon that was ever sold in China last year for $1.9 million.
That's ridiculous.
Pretty penny.
All right, so number two, you mentioned you can just go outside and catch a pigeon. What's up with that?
So pigeons are not federally protected birds because they're technically considered invasive. So even though you could go outside and catch a pigeon on the street and keep it as a pet or eat it or do whatever you wanted with it, technically you shouldn't, because pigeons mate for life, and if you grab them off the street, there's a very high probability that you're either taking them away from their chick or their mate. And they grieve very heavily because even though they might not look super intelligent, they are super intelligent, and they really, really love their mates. So you should not just grab one off the street for fun.
That had so many emotional ups and downs for me. So one of the things I learned from you is that pigeons are domesticated. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So if you're getting something like a parrot, now you know, obviously parrots still, for the most part, exist in the wild, even, you know, despite being threatened because of us mostly. But pigeons actually are a domestic bird, and it's possible that they were the first domesticated bird. So just like you wouldn't commonly see like a wild chicken walking around that didn't once belong to someone and got turned loose, we actually turned pigeons loose in the streets because we liked feeding them. And they're thriving in the cities now because their natural environment is like rocky cliffs and stuff. And turns out our city infrastructure perfectly mimics that. So they can nest very easily, like under overpasses and everything. So now, even though we brought them to the cities because we loved feeding them, they've become a huge problem. And now our cities poison them because there are too many and people no longer like feeding them. So
That got sad.
Yeah, it is very sad.
Okay, so let's say I'm getting a pigeon. Do I get one or do I get two pigeons?
So it all depends on the individual bird and how much time you have to spend with them. So the main thing and the main important thing with pigeons is that they need to bond to something, whether it be a human or another bird. The easiest thing you can do is get a pair of already bonded pigeons because they already enjoy each other's company. They'll keep each other company all day. Or you can find a bird that hasn't bonded with another bird and you can bond with it, but you have to spend like way more time with them because they require you to be around to keep them company. Okay. So the answer is basically how much time do you want to spend with them, and have they already bonded with another bird.
And if they are in a bonded pair situation, can you still handle and hang out with both of them, or is it more of a hands-off situation? Yeah,
you can still hang out with them. Some will tolerate it differently. Each bird is different. I do have a friend that has a single raised male that ended up bonding with a female, and the female is completely hands-off, but the male is still loves her and will come out and hang out and then go back and nest with his female. So it just depends on the bird.
Okay. So one of the interesting things I overheard you talk about while we've been here is that you can hand raise them, like hand feed them, but it actually makes some birds seem like maybe more males aggressive. And that was kind of surprising because in the parrot world, when you hear about hand rearing, hand feeding, anything like that, that's kind of known to make them more conditioned to being handled and therefore making them tamer. But in the pigeon world, that almost seemed backwards. Can you kind of expand on your experience with that?
Yeah, so in my experience, Coo-per was a hand-raised male. I also have a friend that has a hand-raised male. Both of them have turned out a little bit more aggressive than the just regular, pigeon males that have been raised up by other pigeons. And the best guess we have is because they weren't put in their place and taught how to be a pigeon by the mom. So for the first like month of their life, they're completely reliant on the parents to regurgitate the pigeon milk that they make in their crop into their mouth. So if you take them away from their mom and you're doing that, or some situation takes them away from your mom, they don't have that like boundary that their mom's like, hey, stop pecking me that hard, or like, you can't do that. And so by you doing that, you're not setting like the boundary in the way that they understand. So then they just get away with murder, and the rest of your life you'll just potentially be dealing with a slightly hormonal off human reared pigeon.
Fun.
Yes, it's great.
So that brings me to how you have a whole setup in here, and we saw what would normally be for cats.
Oh, yes.
And you were like, hey, we don't have cats. We actually just have pigeons, and this is sort of the environment that they like. So can you expand on that for anybody wanting to get a pigeon? What kind of environment do they need to set up for it?
So pigeons typically rest on flat perches more than they'll rest on like branches and ropes and stuff. I found that my pigeons actually don't use dowels or natural wood perches really at all, and they strictly prefer using wooden platform perches and stuff. So what I actually did is I went out and I bought a cat tree, because it's all platform perches, and they love it. They'll go in, they'll nest in the little boxes, they'll sit on it and sun themselves in the window, and they love it. But everybody's like, why do you keep cats in your pigeon room? I don't have cats. It's for my pigeons. So they like platforms. If you're looking into getting a pigeon, make sure that you do not put a ton of just dowel perches and natural perches and ropes in there. Make sure you have flat surfaces for their feet to walk on, and this is especially important when you're buying a cage. Many bird cages in stores are not catered to be able to hold a pigeon, which is why I actually keep my pigeons in dog crates, because it's one of the only cages I can find that has more horizontal space than vertical space, so they can walk, because that's what they do most of the time. They walk on the ground.
Yeah, that's usually where you find them.
Yes.
So number 7 about pigeons is, you guys are probably wondering about this adorable birdie wardrobe right here, and we're gonna get to that in part 2 of this video, so go check out Maddie's channel where we're gonna post part 2 of all the things you wanna know about pigeons that you didn't know you wanted to know. Bye, Cooper.
Perfect timing.